We've been talking about moving mountains. When we have faith and we trust God and we express His love to others through our actions, we can move mountains. So today, I want you to remember this one thing. I will have faith and trust God to serve others. Our memory verse this month is Matthew 17:20b. I tell you the truth. If you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, "Move from here to there," and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. The mountain that Jesus is talking about in our memory verse is like a symbol for anything that is difficult or seems impossible. The things that create a sense of hopelessness in our heart. These mountains might be broken relationships, questions about God, family problems, medical issues, finances. There's a parable in the Bible about someone who is facing a mountain. And the parable is the Good Samaritan. This story is a great example of how living a life of faith produces good works. It shows us that when we have faith as small as a mustard seed, we can move big mountains through our actions. I want to just read through this parable for you, and then we'll take a minute to break it down. The parable can be found in Luke chapter 10, verses 30 through 37. Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I will pay you the next time I'm here." Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by the bandits? Jesus asked. And the man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same." A Samaritan, who would have been despised by the Jews in that culture at that time, saw a man who had been beaten and left for dead on the side of the road, and he had compassion on him. He didn't just walk by and ignore him, he stopped to help. He bandaged his wounds, put him on his donkey, and took him to the nearest inn to get help. That Samaritan was moved to action by his faith in God, and he was blessed because of it. Faith and action, faith and obedience go hand in hand. We all face mountains, and you're going to see others face mountains. So, how should we be like the Good Samaritan and help move them? Let me give you some practical steps that you can take. Number 1, take time to listen. We're often overwhelmed by what we see, like the priest or the temple assistant. Because we can be so overwhelmed by what we see others going through, we don't listen to what God is telling us to do in response to the need of others. If we are not clearly hearing what God is leading us to do, it will keep us from putting our faith into action. These men might have been too worried about getting involved because of how it might look for their status, but because they didn't do anything at all, we look at them now and think, yikes, like that was harsh, they should have helped. Faith is trusting God enough to do what he says. So we must first hear what he's saying to us. Listening to what others are going through and just being there for them can be such a powerful thing. Mountain movers put faith into action. So to move mountains, you have to take time to listen to what God is telling you to do. James 2:15-17 puts it this way. Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing, and you say, "Goodbye and have a good day. Stay warm and eat well," but then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. Respond with compassion. When we see a mountain that we need to deal with, we need to have compassion. The Samaritan began putting faith into action by responding with compassion. God had compassion on us by sending Jesus to the cross for our sins, and now we are to share his compassion with others. Regardless of the mountain we are facing, we need to respond with compassion in our faith. James continues by saying this. Now, someone may argue, some people have faith, others have good deeds. But I say, how can you show me your faith if you don't have any good deeds? I will show you my faith by my good deeds. And you say you have faith. for you believe that there is one God. Good for you. Even the demons believe this, and they tremble in terror. How foolish. Can't you see that faith without good deeds is useless? James 2:18-20. Notice that James says that you must show faith. Faith and good deeds go hand in hand and can't be separated. We show our faith by responding with compassion in everything that we're dealing with or facing. The Samaritan and the man on the road, they wouldn't have been friends because one was a Samaritan and one was a Jew. But the Samaritan moved past that mountain so that he could show compassion. He could show that he had faith. He could show his good deeds. Faith and action go hand in hand, and actions make our faith complete. Look at what Paul writes in Galatians. For you have been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters, but don't use your freedom to satisfy your sinful nature. Instead, use your freedom to serve one another in love. Galatians 5:13. We are to use our freedom to serve one another in love, just like the Good Samaritan did. You have the opportunity to serve others through your actions. And when we look at others and realize they're facing something insurmountable, we have the opportunity to help them conquer that mountain. The key to moving mountains is having faith. It's trusting God and serving others. We need to take time to listen, and we need to respond with compassion.